This episode is brought to you by BigMooseCoffeeCompany.co.
Pal, it is... Oh, I don't even know what episode we're on. We should start paying attention to these things, don't we?
I don't know. I think maybe people are entertained by how confused we are. It might be charming.
Yeah. Probably not. No. Thank you, all you pals at home, for listening in. Our numbers have gone up quite nicely. Had a bit of an insurgence from the Netherlands.
Yeah. Thank you, Dutch people. We really should have learned thank you in Dutch.
Thank you.
That made me do my wheezy laugh.
It just reminded me of that video. Who was that football manager that had that cringy interview?
Steve McLaren.
Was fantastic. It? Yeah. Oh, God, it was awful. Anyway, thank you, Netherlands, for being the ultimate pals. And all of you pals around the world that are tuning in.
Yeah. Good to be with you again.
Speaking of pals.
Yeah.
God,
it's a good segue.
Segues are good, aren't they?
I know, we're on it.
We might actually, at the end of each series, do a little segue competition of our top 10 segues.
Yeah, we can segue into a best of segues competition.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of pals, we've got one of our ultimate pals on the show again this time. He has upgraded from just a regular pal to a staff pal.
Yep.
But we're here to just talk about some stuff that he's got up to from that time till then. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode, do you want to pick a random number out there? Episode 12, maybe? Yeah, episode 13,
episode
12, 7, 8 of Series 1. Look for Adam Kimble's episode, and you can find out all about how he spent 60 days in the wilderness and survived, how he ran across the US in 60 days.
And you can find out why we're no longer allowed in Idaho.
Yeah. So that was all that episode. Yeah. But now we've got him back to just catch up and talk about some stuff that he's got coming up. He's a bit of a favourite amongst all the BTU runners as well. So welcome back, Adam Kimble.
Hey. Thanks, pals.
Kimble.
Great to be here.
The Kimble.
Kris, if I had known you were so good at speaking Dutch, I would have got a lesson from you before.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry, man.
You should have known. I'm surprised I didn't teach you everything. Because I don't know if you realise, but I am fluent. And I had a month with you. I could have taught you everything
I know. Probably. It's kind of a bummer, but next time.
Next time, I'll teach you every bit of Dutch that I know.
Maybe that's... well, yeah. You might even end up better than Steve McLaren.
Yeah, maybe.
I suppose we should talk about that then, really, shouldn't we? In terms of stuff that's happened since.
Oh, I thought you meant Steve
McLaren on the episode. I mean, we can talk about Steve McLaren if you like. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to make this podcast about Steve McLaren.
I mean, Kimble, is Steve McLaren particularly well known in the US?
I wouldn't say. I guess I can't speak on behalf of all the US, but I wouldn't say so. No.
Okay, fair enough. We'll drop that.
Yeah. So we're not going to do this episode about Steve McLaren. We're going to do it about you, Adam Kimble.
Yeah, that's a better idea.
How you been?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
How have you been, Kimble? All right.
Yeah, I've been good. It's been a really fun since we last spoke. Things have. A lot of fun things have happened. Obviously, you and I, Kris, we went on our Great British Adventure, and we can chat more about that. But that was epic, to say the least, and so much different than, as far as long-term running adventures go, so much different of an experience than running across the U.S., where I was fully crewed and had a bunch of people with me all the time. Instead, it was me and you carrying all of our stuff wild camping in Scotland. Yeah. Instead of having five people.
I don't suppose many times you got drunk as well and slept under benches in pub car parks.
Yeah, I'll never forget the time that we went in to have a pint after a long day of 50K or however many miles we did, and the owner of the bar suggested that we could camp in their front lawn, so we literally camped outside of a bar.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really good. So for those that haven't listened to the first episode and want to listen to this first, Adam and I first met years ago, not in person, but just weirdly through a Skype situation without actually meeting in person. We decided to run the length of Britain, including the 3 peaks, on a self-sufficient adventure that lasted 34 days.
31.
31.
31. Yeah.
31 days. We
Month of
averaged
July.
about 50k a day. And the idea was to not have a plan. Was to go to John O'Groats, do the 3 peaks on the way down, and just make up the route as we go along. So yeah, it was a cool little adventure. And,
Yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah, so we had a great time. And we did it in 31 days. Adam did it a lot easier way than what I did. I'll point that out. Adam was on
but
holiday.
again, like I think a lot of that is body adaptation too. I kept telling Chris, even though I knew like he didn't want to hear it, but I kept telling him like, hey, of all people to understand the pain that you're feeling, that your body is going through right now, I know, because like this is what happened to me on the run across the US, and I think my body just had a little bit of that adaptation, and when we did it, I felt good the whole time. I think, you know, it was one of those situations where the body was like, oh, okay, now I know what you're going to do. And since you're clearly not going to listen to me, I'm just going to let it happen, you know?
That's the thing, isn't it? It's like when you're, for anyone that's met Adam knows that he's an extremely likable guy. But when you're in pain, you kind of hope in some way, not that I wish pain upon him,
Where are you going with this?
but just a little bit. Just like a little sore or an ache or, oh, you know what, my quad's a little tight
Just a
today.
small blister.
Yeah, oh, okay, he is human. But it was hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm pretty sore today. How are you? Oh, feel great.
Ow. Pumped.
6 minute miles off. Oh. But no, it actually gave me an insight into how good Adam is as a runner. And not until we saw you in the desert did I get an actual case, or see how bloody good you actually are. But yeah, it's amazing when you say you've got that adaptation, when your body goes, oh yeah, okay, he's making me run across another country.
Fair enough.
I'll do it. That you just cruised the whole way. It was great.
Yeah.
I was sore.
Yeah, well, as training runs go, running across the US was pretty up there.
Yeah. But anyway, it was an
Yeah, I'd
amazing
say so.
adventure, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. And what was really cool for me is that, you know, I'd never been to Scotland, never been to Wales, been to England a couple times, and you know, went to like London, and didn't really get outside of, you know, the major city. And just speaking with a lot of the people that we encountered along the way, it was cool to hear things like, wow, like you're not even from here and you're going to know these countries better than the people that live in them, you know? And that was just kind of like a cool thing for me to reflect upon, just the opportunity to, I mean, we literally ran through these 3 countries, and you see them in a way that most people that have lived there for long periods of time haven't seen them. And that's just like a really special part of an adventure like that.
Yeah, we went to places that you'd never go to otherwise.
Right,
Those places
right.
in Wales, for example, that we went to, there's no reason to go to those places.
Don't name any of those places. We do not want to upset the Welsh.
There's no place in those places in Scotland and England, but there's no need to go to those places unless you live there.
I get what you mean, yeah.
There's nothing.
Not saying it's terrible to live there.
No.
Just saying it's
There's
not
nothing.
terrible
It's
to
full
live
of
there.
nothingness.
You know, the exact same thing happened on my run across the U.S. We ended up in towns, and it was kind of funny. The crew, we would like talk to each other and say, these places that we're in, there would absolutely never be any reason we would be here other than why we're here, you know. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of cool. It's like,
yeah,
you know, I would never take a vacation to middle of nowhere, New Mexico, but sure enough, here we are, and it's pretty neat to see those kind of things. So
because alongside the place come the people that you would never normally meet.
Yeah.
So like the person that stands out for me, and the thing that I got from it the most was how nice and warm people are across. I've seen it across the world, but especially across the UK. And the guy that stands out to me is Kyle, who we had just done Snowdon that day. It was raining. We had like the rainiest summer. We got rained on for about a week straight, pretty much. And it had rained non-stop without even a minute of rest. all the way up Snowdon, all the way down. There was weather warnings, and it took quite a long time because even like the trails that we were going on were almost like rivers. And we get to this tiny little village where there must have been about 60 people living there. Everything's shut apart from this one pub. And this young lad, Kyle, how old was he, Kimble? About 19, 20, would you say? Maybe a little older?
Yeah, maybe early 20s.
Came up, you know, Adam stands out like a sore thumb because he's got his American buff on. Just going around going, hey, how you doing? Have a nice day, to absolutely everyone he meets. So what you're doing, we kind of say what we're doing, and there was nowhere to stay. And the thought of us camping out with all wet gear and stuff in this tiny tent was kind of, neither of us spoke about it, but I don't think either of us were that keen to go into a tent that night, were we? And then all of a sudden, he opens up, he rings this person up, opens up a hostel that's shut. No one else is in there. Opens it up, we get to stay in. There's showers, there's laundry facilities, and then he brings us everything that he has in his freezer at home to us, including a few beers, ice cream, pizzas and stuff, and said, I haven't got much more, but this is what I have got. Here you go.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and he follows us on Instagram. He had a bit of an interest in ultra running. I think he was training to do one at the time. So if you are listening, Carl, we still appreciate that one, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks,
That was... I've always told people from my experience that these type of adventures, like, not only do they inspire a lot of people just by the sheer magnitude of what you're doing, but also when you're, you know, raising money for, like Kris was raising money for Huntington's disease, and I was raising money for brain cancer awareness. And when you're doing things like that, in addition to just the fact of what exactly it is that you're embarking upon, people really rally around that. And I think there's no better, that's represented so perfectly by how people respond to it. And the story of Kyle. And another time, Kris and I, we walked into this, I don't know if you'll remember where this was, Kris, but we walked into this restaurant, sat down for dinner, started chatting up these people. And then the people, they had been there well before us.
Second. I have to stop because in England, that would have looked like we went into a restaurant and started hitting on someone.
Oh, yeah.
So that
you can't just barge in and start chatting people up.
Just because my girlfriend's in the next room, and if she hears that, she's going to come raining fists down on me. Well, we weren't hitting on people in restaurants, folks. We were talking to them.
This is fitting though, because you and I have these kind of conversations all across Great Britain. So, but so we're talking with. Is that better?
Yeah.
Talking with these strangers, these very nice strangers, and they had been there well before us. So they finished their dinner and they got up and left. And then when it was time for us to pay our bill, the waiter gave us money back. Yep. Like he brought money to the table, and we're like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, those people that were here before, they paid for your meal, and here's the leftover money."
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
they didn't tell us; they just walked out, right? Anyway, it's cool.
Yeah. So there's like the whole thing of that situation. Not only did they like do a really nice deed, they did it without expecting any sort of thanks or anything in return. You know?
Yeah, and that was just outside of Loch Ness. So if you was in that pub just outside of Loch Ness, I can't remember your names, but it was a young couple, and then there was, I think their father as well was on the periphery, wasn't it? And it was one of the three that had done it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
You.
Yeah, but we can talk about all stuff like that all day. One thing that I'm interested to ask you though is, what was your favorite snack? What was your favorite bit of food? Because I tried to take you through the whole UK food experience,
because you'll have had the whole experience. It's not just, people come over here as a tourist, they think fish and chips, and that might be all they have. You had 31 days, length and breadth of the country, so many regional snacks.
I know which one is your least favorite.
I was gonna say, I can tell you what I didn't like at all.
And you're gonna send some listeners crazy when you say that, because it's quite controversial.
Let's open with that then. What is it?
All right. Kendall mint cake.
What?
Yeah.
Nah, stop the podcast. How about done with this?
I was crazy. Like, I took a bite and I said, "Are you kidding me? This is what it."
Is it because you're expecting cake?
I'm probably in part, yeah.
I definitely had beef with it when I first came across it. But
yeah, it's just so concentrated in its power.
That 20-minute experience, if you try and Kendall mint cake and everything that surrounded that 20 minutes was pretty crazy, to be fair. So
yeah.
I feel another story here.
I'll let you tell that one, Kimble, because
what happened?
Let's just say there was a kid, like a teenage kid, who littered, and then this older gentleman made a comment to him, and he talked back in a not nice way to that gentleman, and Kris wasn't a big fan of that, so Kris taught him a lesson.
The best thing was I'd been limping that day, hadn't I? And I took my shoes off, and I was just like getting some, that when you have ran so many miles, you just need your shoes off for a second just to let your feet go like and throb. So I was kind of limping around that day, and all of a sudden I'd just done like 100-meter in Usain Bolt time to reach this kid.
I was going to say, it was like Usain Bolt running across the square.
Yeah, and like Kimble was eating this Kendall mint cake, taking in that experience, turned around, and I'm dashing towards this kid to roughhouse him to go pick his plastic bottle up. So yeah, it was a pretty random experience. I just got so mad at it. Litter. Teaching a lesson. Anyway, favourite snack or favourite bit of food?
Well, so snack is tough because, I mean, we were going into petrol stations all the time and re-upping our supply of things. I mean, I was a huge fan of custard creams. I had a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of those.
You're going to make some fans back up now. The ones that you lost on Kendall mint cake.
You've clawed me back.
Yeah.
So those would be up there. And I will say, you just made me think of this, Will. I've always been a fan of fish and chips, but one thing I'd never had before was the fish and chips with gravy. And that was a pretty phenomenal treat as well.
How did that Yorkshire spin into the fish and chips?
I thought so. I'd see that as a fairly northern thing. I'd never come across it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I just said, just try it. Just try it. And yes, he's originally from Yorkshire.
That was, Kris, that was after that. We went to that like construction area. Remember, we came downhill. They were like, they had a bunch of the roads closed down, and then we popped into that restaurant, went to the second floor, and that was where I first tried that.
In Wales, just before we hit the Brecons.
Why would you want a really thick beef-flavoured liquid on top of your fish?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you not? That's surf and turf.
I think
a question I often ask myself.
There's two things in particular that I know that you consumed a lot of that probably fueled your journey, and one was tatty scones. You're quite partial to the tatty scone, weren't you? Yeah.
Wow. I forgot about tatty scones.
That was a Kimble classic through Scotland, and there was a particular liquid that you seemed to become favourable of.
Oh yeah, the good old Friggy, baby.
Yeah, Friggy, and there was another one as well. So Friggy, I taught him the ways of the fridge.
Obviously,
if you're an ultra runner, check out Friggy. Not that we're after any kind of sponsor. Yeah.
Oh, that liquid, right. I've got a bottle of it in my refrigerator right now.
Oh yeah.
Iron Brew, baby.
Yeah, baby.
There we go.
So yes,
if there's anything that we've allowed you to take back to the US with you, it's that our countryside is beautiful, our people are amazing, and our sugary snacks give people diabetes.
And then the beautiful thing about Iron Brew is that when I first took a sip of it, I said out loud, "This is the closest thing I've ever had to Inca Cola." And then when we were in Peru, I got to relive my experience at the Jungle Ultra drinking Inca Cola. So that was beautiful.
To me, I was like, "This is the closest thing I've had to Iron Brew."
Which it is. If any Peruvian listeners are wondering what Iron Brew tastes like, and vice versa, sorted.
Yeah, unite in Peru and Scotland.
Yeah, they are two countries that have both independently developed a national drink that's both lurid in colour and mysterious of taste.
Yeah.
Oh, lurid in colour and mysterious in taste. Name of your new album cover.
Marks and Spencer's. Lurid in colour and mysterious in taste. Name of your sex tape.
Hey.
Hashtag 99.
Anyway.
Well, that's just got us in the censored category on iTunes.
So we could talk about the GBA all day.
All day.
All day, baby. But we should probably move on, because if people want to learn more about the GBA, then they could probably find out where me and you are talking around the world.
Yeah,
and then they'll find out all about it.
Good plug.
Plug. But let's move on to Pastures New. So after the podcast, we did the little month around Britain. Had a little
bimble.
Yeah. And then the next time we saw each other was in November, when you were a competitor on one of our races.
That's right.
Tell us
Desert
more.
Ultra, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had run, prior to Kris and myself meeting, I had done one stage race and really enjoyed the experience. And I always tell people now that it's like running, if you're an ultra runner and you haven't run a stage race, think of all of the reasons why you love the ultra running community, and then it's that for a week straight with the same people. So it's like you always meet great people at races. All of the 100-milers and different races that I do, I always come away with new friends and wonderful people that I've met. But I usually see them at the start line. Maybe I'll share some miles with them during the race, maybe see them at the finish for a little bit. And you have these microscopic interactions. And then you look at a stage race where, whether you're leading the way or back of the pack or somewhere in between, you're going to be spending time with these people every single day, like significant time, conversing with them, getting to know them, sharing your experience of what it was like during that particular day and that stage. And it's just like it's a microcosm of the ultra running community, but it's so incredible because you get to know all these people so very well, and then it just makes you want to hang out with them more. So it was an incredible experience. Namibia was amazing. The staff, for the BTU staff, the local Namibian staff, all incredible people, and then all the racers that were out there with me were wonderful people, and I'm looking forward to reconnecting with some of them who will be coming back to Namibia this year, and others who I just hope to cross paths with in the future. So incredible race. Happy to come away with a course record. Had an absolute blast, and that desert is beautiful.
So when you came out to the desert as a competitor at the time, that was when we had a little conversation about it would be great at some point to get you in on our team, but to understand what we do, you need to come and experience it from the side of a competitor. And that was similar to when Will did the Ice Ultra. I think it's important for any BTU member of staff to be on that side of it, to just get it. And even though you'd had experience in ultra running, it was just like how we work, how we operate. So you came out. I thought, you've got a good chance of winning. To take 4 hours, I think it was, off the course record. And it's Vicente Garcia that has had the previous course record.
Yeah,
and
he is a big record.
Beast. He's a beast of an athlete. And to take 4 hours off it. And the thing that we should probably add to that is Kimble was at checkpoints laughing and joking around like he wasn't racing. But then obviously in between the checkpoints.
It's not funny. He wasn't taking it seriously.
So a course record stands now on that race. That, I mean, it would be fair to say that you was going for a course record, right? You knew what the time was. You knew that you wanted to set it. It's there to be broken.
If anyone else wants it,
it's there to be
good
broken.
luck.
And
come and get it, baby.
The unique thing is now that Adam is the race director of that race. So if you get close, he can just time penalty you.
Yeah. Sorry, that's an illegal pair of socks you've got on.
Yeah.
Out.
Oh,
just trip them up.
Yeah.
Didn't see that on the kit list.
Yeah, looked at me funny. 2 hours. But yeah, no, it was amazing to watch you. That's when we got to see what a top ultra runner in the world can do. And I don't know if you consider yourself that, but in that, I don't know, before, did you finish 12th in the Western States, or did you do our podcast after, or what was then? Because
so I finished 12th in Western States like 4 or 5 months before Namibia. So that was last year.
So in the time that we last spoke, Adam also finished 12th at Western State. So that gives you an idea of how the category of we're dealing with.
He's got legs.
Yeah, he's got legs.
He knows how to use them.
He's got long legs.
That's my tagline, Will. Thank you for that.
Are you chatting up Adam right now?
Yeah.
I'm hitting on him, to be clear.
The Namibians even called him Volstrace as well, which is nicely translated to ostrich.
It actually, that was nice for me because the first two and a half stages of the race, Francois, who's kind of the ringleader of the Namibian crew, he was the one that kicked it off and started calling me Volstrace. But then he wouldn't outright tell me what it meant. And so I spent the better part of the first 2.5 stages just trying to figure out what he was calling me. So it actually helped pass the time pretty well. It was good.
Yeah. It's cute that you actually think it is ostrich. He's just got back at a sucker.
We're now censored in all Afrikaans-speaking countries as well.
But no, I'm really excited to head back this year. And just like what Kris was saying, I was, not that I'm the one that made this happen, but I was highly encouraging Kris to participate in one of the races. And I felt like the desert made the most sense. Because, Kris has obviously done a lot of ultra running and ultra adventures. And I felt like, even though similarly to him wanting me to experience that from the running point of view, I want him to have that same experience, because it's a community. It's like a family, no matter what. You got the medical staff, you got the runners, you got the race staff, the locals. Everybody is a part of the same family, but you all experience such different things. And being at the jungle this year, I got to see just how different it was on the staff side of things. And so I'm excited for you to experience that, Kris.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I'm swapping places with Adam this year. And
I've been trying to stifle a laugh there as Adam outs you in front of everyone who listens to this.
He won't be laughing when I take his course record off him. That won't happen.
When we get to that day, I'm going to play this back to you.
Yeah, I did a 6K shuffle around the park this morning thinking this is going to suck. But no, I'm excited for it. To be on the other, the situation I've been in is I've been designing these things for so long, and you kind of you kind of long for to be on the other side of it. But then similarly, I feel a bit begrudging to pay someone else. Because I do it as a job. That's why Kimble, we ran across Britain, because I thought this is my job to design these things. And I think if I was on the other side of it of someone else, I wouldn't properly relax, because I'd be looking at them. I suppose it's like when a chef goes to a restaurant.
Yeah.
You'd even though you could sit and have a nice meal, you'd be going, I wonder how I can do this differently, or I wonder what I would do differently. And even when I'm at other races, even if they're single days, I always look around and, what's the medical staff doing? And I'm never really...
Oh, it's everything, isn't it? You find yourself looking at the finish line going, I wouldn't have put that flag there.
That's a really good way to place a flag. I don't look at it negatively.
That's a good, really way to place a flag. I'm not going to tell them that.
Yeah, but this is... this, for me, is a way of, getting on the other side of it and being able to relax and having absolute faith that you guys can do the job without me and not getting itchy or nervous about it.
We're all going to have a great time.
I'm clenching my fists.
He's tense. I can see it in his eyes.
He's releasing control. This isn't this isn't a community, it's a dictatorship. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So that's the desert. Let's actually, while we're here, we're going to probably do a top 10 tips of the Desert Ultra, but let's do a top 3 Adam Kimble Desert Ultra tips.
I like it.
And this is where we could have a jingle. Top 3 desert tips with Adam Kimble. Yeah.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
That's for anybody still watching the GoPro feed.
On the spot, top 3 tips for the Desert Ultra.
Okay.
Over to you.
Number 1 cool yourself. So
just be cooler.
Yeah, be cooler. I've learned that I've been fortunate, I guess, depending on how you look at it, to run in some pretty hot races. I think temperature wise, I ran a two weekends ago. I ran a 100-miler in Vermont. It's part of the original 400 milers in the States. It's called the Vermont 100, and there's a grand slam of ultra running where people will run all 4 in the same year. But I did the Vermont 100. I took 3rd place, and that was the hottest race I've ever run because it was so humid. It was a lot like the jungle, actually. But imagine that, just the entire race, right? Like the worst part of the jungle, the entire race. So it was like that. But the hottest temperature I've ever experienced in a race was in Namibia. I think we touched, we'd have to do the Fahrenheit Celsius conversion, but it was 130 Fahrenheit, I know, which was 55 maybe Celsius, something like that.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah. But
55 degrees is too many degrees.
Yeah,
I stand
it
by
is.
that.
It is. Yeah, it is. But one of the things that I was doing frequently throughout the race was I would take the water that I had on me, and even just little bits of it, taking it and wetting your buff, squirting it on your neck, your wrists, hitting the areas where you can cool your core temperature. That makes such a big difference. And so that was a huge thing for me, was just doing every little thing, even though there wasn't, I couldn't. You're not going to lay down in any streams in the desert because they don't exist for the most part. So just doing every little thing you can to cool yourself would be tip number 1.
So being smart with your water, and if you're feeling like you're overheating, which you are gonna feel like you're hot, there's no way about it. You can do those little things like keep your buff wet your extremities to keep your core temperature as cool as you can, considering, and then also dictate your pace. So if you're pushing really hard, and that's probably the number one thing that knocks people out early on in the race, is they race like they'd race back home, and then their body overheats. It affects you on a cellular level, affects blood flow. You haven't got enough blood to digest your food, you vomit, and it can easily happen. Just like our Jungle Ultra top tips, acclimatize in whatever ways you can. The heat is the easiest one to acclimatize to. So sauna sessions, heat sessions at your local university.
I can't remember who it was. There was a runner on the way into that race who, just in their garage next to their house, had set up a treadmill surrounded by little fan heaters.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit Breaking Bad, isn't it?
It is a little bit, but I'm all for the DIY approach.
It's definitely, if a policeman came by, or one of those helicopters, they would definitely think they're growing weed in their garage with all the immersion heaters. For sure, absolutely. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but go on a nice holiday just before it, or go out and race. What we're telling you folks is to holiday more. So go to somewhere hot and get used to it and experience it. So I've just come back from Milan. That was kind of similar to what you said, Kimble. I ran with Alex Linkenbach. Shout out to the Linkenbachs. Yes,
Linkenbachs.
Stayed with the Linkenbachs. So Alex and Clan and Katharina looked after us really well. But it was really humid, like 60-70%, 35 degrees, and it just felt ridicullike But it was good idea for me to go. Like I ran an hour and was like, holy, I'm dehydrated. Like that was just an hour. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2.
Tip number 2 coming at you. Take care of small foot issues before they become big foot issues. And what I mean is, if there's any hot spots on your feet, deal with them immediately. Don't think to yourself, I've got some pebbles in my shoe or some sand in my shoe. It's aggravating, but the next checkpoint is in 10 kilometers. I'm just going to get there and fix it then. Sit down on the side of the desert and fix it immediately, because little problems become big problems, and then big problems are ones that you can't fix. So
great tip.
The biggest, I guess, you made a great point there, Kris, about people going out too hard and overheating and then taking themselves out of the race. I think outside of that, probably the next biggest reason people have huge issues at this race, or really at any multi-stage, is foot problems, because when your feet are destroyed, like that's what's carrying you from point A to point B. So take care of that. Once you don't want to have your entire foot pad filled with blisters. It's going to make every step painful. So do whatever you can to avoid getting to that point.
Yeah. So before we add to that point, the thing that me and Will, you might have heard us chuckle, but I want to confirm with Will, did you chuckle because he said Bigfoot issues? And you thought about like Bigfoot walking around?
Yeah, I did. That's what's been going on. Like the Namibian version of
something. So like, Will and I shared a little laugh, and I just wanted to confirm that was our brains.
Small foot issues can become Sasquatch issues real fast.
really fast. You got to be careful. But to add to that point, so a common thing that happens when you are in a hot environment is you swell. So fingers can swell. We always try and get wedding rings off people, not through any kind of weird keys in a bowl situation.
No, but just to be clear.
Yeah,
we're not
just like rings off and stuff, because fingers swell in the heat, as do your feet. And what tends to happen is people will then start loosening their trainers, and then that creates gaps and avenues for stuff to get in. And because it's a rock desert, for the first few days, you didn't wear gaiters at all, did you, Adam?
No, people were... like the rest of the competitors thought I was crazy, but as Harvey, one of the local Namibians, would say, if you pick up your feet high enough, then the sand won't get in the shoes. So
which is mad logic, but sort of right in the sense, because Adam, you were running near every step, and not just running quite fast. So your cadence over the sand is of a different thing of someone walking. So if you're relatively heavy walking in that sand, you're sinking, where you was kind of skipping like a little mud skipper across the sand. And I even saw you when you were running in the sand, you was running in the 4x4 tracks. So you was trying to get into the compressed stuff as much as possible. As much as we joke around at checkpoints that he was, laughing and taking his time, and there's those little things.
He looks like he's taking it easy because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, all those little things in between were making a massive difference. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend to someone not to bring gaiters. I'm probably going to bring them maybe, but it is a mainly rock desert, so there isn't sand like you would expect on other desert ultras.
You hear desert and you imagine you're going to be scrambling up and down sand dunes the whole time, and you'd want gaiters or a Zorb.
Yeah, but
I'd say what, maybe 2 of the 5 stages are fairly heavy sand, right?
So the first 2 stages are mainly rock and dust tracks. Not a lot of sand going on there. Stage 3 starts, and I think 20 k's in a sandy riverbed. And then kind of progresses off onto a bit of harder track and a bit of both. And then stage 4, as you kind of come up the hills, is a bit sandy. And then stage 5, you start, it's a bit of everything. Yeah, so out of the 250k of that race, I would say 50k.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, 50k on sand.
Yeah.
But to be fair,
it's plenty of time to build up some huge blisters. So.
Oh, yeah.
But to be fair, I was, as far as bringing gaiters, I was the only person not wearing gaiters to my knowledge. So
I think you might be right there.
If you're thinking about it, I'm probably going to bring them as a precaution.
And I had them, I just didn't wear them.
Okay. Tip number 3,
be very intentional about your time back at camp. So as soon as you finish the stage and arrive at camp, and this again applies across all BTU multi-stages, but as soon as you get back, start your recovery process immediately. It's okay to sit down and chat for a few minutes, but don't lay down next to the finish line for 2 hours. Finish, say hi to some people, take your time to get your head on straight, and then go start recovering. So get your shoes and your socks off, get your feet up in the air, start eating, hydrating, drinking as much as you can, because all those things compound. And if you can take care of them and take care of your body as soon as possible, then the next day you're going to be in that much better shape. I think some people get into trouble when they get back. They don't really they kind of just float around camp and don't do the things they need to do as soon as they need to do them, and then their body pays for it in the later stages.
Yeah, we covered that in the jungle top 10 tips we did a little while ago, didn't we? That
Yeah.
it's mentally it's best that you don't consider your day finished until you've done that list of things.
Yeah.
And crossing the line is the end of the stage. It's the beginning of the last part of the stage.
Yeah. So if I give some exact examples from runners that are good. So Christina Madsen, our female winner from last year, she has a protein shake, like a higher calorie protein carb shake, and she hits that immediately. So she gets across the line, she sits down, she loosens her shoes up, bag off, makes the shake, drinks it there, then goes off, puts her bag down, picks a place to stay, then will top her water bottles up, make food. Good system.
Yeah.
Specific example number 2 was Kevin. But Kevin would finish, wet all of his. He wore a long sleeve white thin,
big billowy desert wear.
Yeah, like your very typical. Imagine like your desert white hat with the thing, and your almost like a white, really thin shell hoodie. The second he finished, bag off, wet his entire body to bring his body temperature cool, taped the things that he needed to tape after cleaning them, so they were retaped for the next day, then went and made his food. You don't have to eat on the ice ultra and stuff like that. I'd say get in, eat soon as you can. But in the desert, because you need to get your body down to a cooler temperature before you start scoffing 800 calories, you can sometimes wait a little bit, but have that thing immediately after like the snack or the drink or the carb powder or whatever. And you are going to be good to go for the next day.
Yeah, and that's another good point too. When it comes to the desert, because of the heat, you don't always feel like eating big meals or getting the calories that you need. But if you think that's going to be an issue, figure out the best way for you to get down calories, whether it's more liquid calories than solid, whatever that is. The heat, you actually you need that stuff more in the heat, and your body sometimes can tell you, I don't want it. So figure out how to get down those calories, because that can be challenging when it's 130 degrees and you don't feel like eating,
Yeah, and Dave Stash touched on it when we do the re-record of that podcast. You'll hear it, but he touched upon it in that episode where when you're hot and your blood's being distributed around differently, your gut doesn't have the capacity to digest as well. So even though your body is craving salt and craving the minerals and vitamins that it needs to recover, it can sometimes hit, and you eat that and your body's like, get inside, and you're scoffing it, and then it hits, and then your gut just hasn't got the capacity to deal with that, and that's when it comes back up. So it's always good to have a number of options as well in your food. So have snacks, have food, eat it relatively slowly in stages, don't wolf it down. And that's why I think it's always good to have an immediate kind of shake or powder, something that is not a 600, 800 calorie meal.
Yeah, not too heavy, very digestible.
And back in the day, Mayer, when we had like a little magazine running with BTU, he wrote about the importance of a 25-minute window after performance, of getting the importance of that nutritional timing. So there's a 25-minute window to get those carbs, get those proteins in, so your body can start using it. So if that's what you do, that's what you do. But it's all individual, right? You packed probably more calories than most as well, because you like to eat. So
yeah, and I also try to focus. This is another tip too. Sometimes, like for me, I was a big fan of the fire pot meals, and one of the nice things is that they've got some of those like higher calorie meals where it's the same amount of food but 200 more calories.
Yes,
and
they do a 700. I think it's a 600 calorie meal, but then you can actually get the larger packs that are 800.
Yeah.
So you can hit an 800, but it's quite a big volume of food, isn't it? So like if you had like the rice, the chili, or you would have had the chili non-carne, wouldn't you? The chili con carne with no meat. There's a lot. Yeah, it's like a massive. It's like a sack of rice.
Right. So, the bag is completely full. You know.
So it feels like a lot of food. If you're one of those people that feels hungry on these things, it's that sensation of eating a lot which can help out. Bonus tip.
There you go.
Bonus tip.
Get in there with your bonus tips. So obviously, of course, if you want more tips, you can contact Adam directly. You still coaching, Adam?
I am, yeah.
Oh,
yep.
There we go.
Yep.
It's almost like I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy to answer any questions anybody has. I've only done 2 multi-stages, but I feel like I've got a lot of experience when it comes to them. So
and won them both.
Just to be clear.
No, but kind of back to what you were saying before, Chris. I'm actually really glad that I ran a non-BTU multi for my first one, because now when I come to the BTU races, there's like you said, you see all these things that you think, oh, I would do that differently. And there's things that we do that I think no one does nearly as good, and I am a big fan of that. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't see how the rest of the people do it, So.
We've got our secret shopper.
Yeah, there we go. What's next, mate? What's coming next on the horizon? So obviously we're going to see you. We won't see you on the Rangers race because of your schedule. We'll see you on the desert as your first step up as RD. What's going on between now and then for you?
So my bigger races this year, I was telling you before about the Grand Slam. So I just did Vermont, took third there. An interesting fact about Vermont, there was 350-ish runners to start, and I think it was a record low number of finishers. 44% finished the race because of the humidity.
Wow.
So that was I've never participated in an ultra that had that small of a finish rate. So that was pretty wild, but that's what happens when you get 85% humidity and 40 plus degrees Celsius, So had that race in a little over 2 weeks. I'm going to Leadville to do the Leadville 100, which is another one of the Grand Slam races. And so that'll be middle of August. Then in the beginning of October, I am going to attempt, and hopefully not just attempt, but break the fastest known time FKT for the Tahoe Rim Trail, which is right here in my backyard. It's a 170-mile trail that goes all the way around Lake Tahoe. Beautiful trail. I run on the trails all the time. I haven't been on every section, but after this, I will have been. Mm-hmm. And the current record holder is a guy. I don't know if you guys have heard of him before. He's this Spanish guy. His name's Killian Jornet.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Rings a bell.
Hang on, Killian, that's the game show host from The Running Man, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the guy that plays. It's the guy that plays that guy in Peaky Blinders, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Killian Jornet, Cillian Cornet.
Yeah.
Cillian Cornet.
Well,
that's good, Will.
Here's me worrying about Pigface owning the Strava sections in my backyard, and Adam Kimble has his Strava sections owned by Killian Jornet. We should probably explain Pigface, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
I've not spoken to you about Pigface.
What are you going on about?
Kimble knows who Pigface is. So there's this guy on Strava when I lived in my old flat on the other side of Leeds, and he owned every section on Strava around my flat. Every section, every road, every hill. And he didn't have a name on Strava. His profile picture was a pig face. And every time I broke a CR and got the segment, lo and behold, week later, pig face turns up, takes the segment back. I hate him. I don't know who you are, pig face, but if you listen to this, I'm coming for you and your CRs. You pink face bitch.
I really, really hope they're listening to this. I want to know who you are.
Because if
hashtag find pigface.
Yeah,
find pigface.
Because there was a segment that was visible from my window of the flat, and I would patrol it, akin to that. You know the old army captain on Mary Poppins on the top of the house.
Yeah.
The crazy captain. That was me in my flat looking out for Pigface.
Did you have a cannon?
Yeah, I would have. Taking him on Pigface. Anyway.
The Kingy Pigface rivalry is one of the best there is.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta say.
So it's on.
I mean, Jornet's Jornet, but Jornet's no Pigface.
No, he's not.
Maybe it is him.
That would make me feel a lot
Maybe
better.
he has a different alias. Killian Jornet's CR of the Tahoe Rim Trail. Yeah, it's going to be quick then.
Yeah, it's he did it in 38 hours, 32 minutes. So I've got to do it in under that.
Beat him?
And yeah, it's a stout time for sure, as all of his records are. But I definitely feel like it's in my wheelhouse to break it, and it's going to be fun. It's like, it's like my backyard trail. It feels like, I always joke with people that I live in Tahoe City in Lake Tahoe, and I always joke with people that all of the Strava segments around Tahoe City, it's like you got to defend the territory, So like people good, really, really strong, a lot of really, really good endurance athletes come to this area to train at various times, and they'll take various segments. And so I feel like it's my job to go back and take it back for the locals,
Yeah.
So that's part of my goal with the TRT, and it's going to be fun because I've got I'm going to have a lot of help with living here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Well, you're gonna have our support, and we'll probably plug a few things when it's happening.
Yeah. When is it?
I'm going to do it the first weekend of October. So I'll either start that Friday. I'll probably start that Friday, which I think is October 4th. And then the goal, if I start in that morning, the goal will be to finish by Saturday night.
Okay. So, yeah, and we'll give you plenty of cheering.
Yep, we'll be watching.
And there's one person coming to Tahoe soon that you should watch out for.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Is it Pigface?
It's not Pig. Shush.
Oh, Shush. Chris, I didn't tell you. Pigface is coming as well.
So anyway, I'm going to Tahoe on Sunday.
Woo!
Training miles with old Kimble Dory. So
he can carry you around.
What Kimble doesn't know is that I'm going to break Killian's FKT of the Tahoe Rim Trail. And
I appreciate you doing it before I do it instead of after. That'd be a real jerk face move.
One of the things that nearly happened to you. So when you was running across America, this is interesting enough. So when you was running across America, right? You was going for the world record. Things happened. We speak about it in the last one, and it didn't work out.
Yep.
But Pete Kostelnik came and broke the record shortly after. So if you did break the record by like a couple of hours, he would have come and nabbed it off of you before you even had time to make that official. And how much would that have sucked?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, on that note, a friend of mine, his name is Mike. He in 2015. So the record, the Tahoe Rim Trail record that I'm going for is supported.
Right.
My friend Mike, who lives here in Tahoe, he set the unsupported record. So carried all of his stuff from the beginning, did the whole trail. And then literally, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks later, a different friend of his went out and broke his record.
What is the record?
So the unsupported one is somewhere in the 55-hour range.
177 miles.
So like 16, 17 hours slower than Killian's time, but carrying all of your food,
Yeah.
Doing all on your own with no assistance.
Chris has got his idea face on.
Does he? Oh,
I've seen it before.
I love that face. That's one of my favorite faces.
He's having thoughts. Well, you heard it here first, people.
Not right now. I have a desert to run. Follower.
Hey!
We just had a follow on our little clock. Every time you hear a bling, Adam, it means that someone's either followed us on YouTube or on Instagram. So welcome along, pals.
It's kind of like I don't know if you guys do this in England, but do you ever have like restaurants or places where people give tips and then they ring a bell or do something like that?
Yeah, we've got bars like that.
Okay. Yeah. That's what that reminded me of, that sound.
I mean, if people want to pay us tips, then
yeah, we'll set up another alarm for that. That's absolutely ideal.
Link in the description and all that.
Look for us on Patreon.
Our direct PayPal links are in the description if you want to tip away. Mate, I know you've got a busy day and you've got to crack on with stuff. I'm excited to do some running with you soon.
Yeah, me too.
Sing some random songs as we go.
Yep.
One of our favourite games on the trail is to sing a random line from a song and let the other person finish it.
I look forward to some very good Instagram stories while you're out there.
Yeah. Kimble taught me some great songs actually in the last one. I got to I was reminded of the Tom Green song, Tiny Salmon Swimming, and it was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing how much of that song I remembered after not hearing it for 20 years.
You sang, I think, pretty much literally every word.
Yeah, and I've not since I saw the film. And then obviously, of course, the Log song.
Oh, such a good one.
Yeah. Do you want to actually treat our viewers to a...
Are we really going to do this?
I know Adam will. This could be Adam's parting gift to our pals that are listening.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, Will, I got a question for you.
Go on.
What rolls downstairs, roll over in Paris, rolls over the neighbor's dog. It's great for a snack.
It fits on your back.
It's log. It's log.
It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's log. It's better than bad. It's good.
It's good.
Now, the time difference between you two there was horrendous.
Yeah.
So it sounds almost like a Frere Jacques moment, where someone sets off with...
Well, Chris, if you are interested in joining in, we can sing it as a round.
But yeah, there you go. There was a rendition on behalf of the Everything Endurance podcast of the log song from Ren and Stimpy.
And if you're not familiar with Ren and Stimpy, that's probably for the best. It's brilliant.
Just leave it.
It will leave a mark on you.
But if you find it on YouTube and listen to it, it will be in your head for the rest of eternity. Just to remember. On that note, on that bombshell,
yeah,
it's sad to say goodbye.
It's always sad to say goodbye. But yeah,
it is.
We're gonna have to go.
It is.
We will try and maybe even bring you back for the Desert Ultra Special for the top 10 tips. You've started with 4. You might as well give us 6 more.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Saves me writing on the back of an envelope.
Such a good race.
Yeah.
Good race.
So,
and that'll be. I mean, those tips will be really palpable to you, Chris, having just run the race. So
yeah. Well, we'll probably get it out before.
We could record it in the race.
Possibly.
Oh, you want to get it out before?
We can get it out before the race.
This is planning on air again, isn't it?
And then I can.
Then you'll have all the tips fresh in your mind, which would be good as well. So can't go wrong.
I can learn from the best.
Yeah.
Around.
Nothing to tape you down in the best.
You say tape you down.
Anyway, we're going.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Adam. As always,
have a lovely
day.
Thanks,
boys.
Pals,
yeah,
subscribe.
You too. Looking forward to the next adventure.
Good. We are too. Pals, subscribe.
Oh, yeah.
Do
subscribe,
all that.
ratings.
Kimble, Jeff at Big Moose is our sponsor now.
Yeah, I heard that. That's awesome.
Jeff and
what a
Adam
guy, man! What a guy
coffee
he is.
Together. So thanks, Big Moose. Remember, you can go on the link to Big Moose, buy some coffee and some beer, and save the world. Contact
buy their coffee. Buy their coffee mug. It's awesome. I have one.
Little orange polka dot mug's pretty cool. You're only a cool person if you buy one of those mugs. Fact.
And that was tip number 1. Be cooler.
Contact Adam for coaching and extra tips, and learn the Ren and Stimpy song just to make your life better. Ta-ra!
Bye.